Data log S. Subject matter Skull. Skull is a tall and slendered, demon-class subject who wears a dark brown winter trench with red buttons, gray shirt and pants with a brown belt. As far as physical features go, his most prominent is his long neck, black and red top hat, and his head, which is a blackened skull, which we found to be his actual head. As well as this back skull, he possesses a set of mandibles with sharp, brown teeth and another jaw in between those mandibles with white teeth. As well as all this information, he appears to only have one yellow eye, which we will explain that reason later on. A thing that is very often seen on Skull is 3 pairs of jointless artifact wings and an artifactal disc with fragments on it. This artifactal wing and disc are black with a pulsing vein of red, which glows with energy. These discs are not always seen as it can be absorbed into the body of Skull to help traversing or to be more agile. But these artifactal discs are soul-bound items/body part, meaning like 80% of the things in the Origin Forest, they will only stay on Skull, only work on Skull and always regenerate even after destruction. Same said as to Skull's clothes, as this is more mandatory and dignity, basically for the same reason anybody else wears clothes. The backstory of Skull is actually very easy to document, because it has been told by many of the entities before. Skull was a sacrificial infant from one of the other multiverses 200 years ago. The man who did it was unknown, but because of the location, it's assumed he was killed not long after the incident. The man's goal was to do a sacrificial ritual through old black magic to become a demigod of a higher status. All that was needed for the ritual was cancer, to have 4 skulls in a half circle, an infant, the words of the book, the blood eagle ritual, and the removal of the left eye. So he searched for a random infant, which was to become Skull, and he had done the procedures. However, the book was not specific on who was supposed to be sacrificed. So logically, the man used Skull as the sacrificial lamb. The method was grotesque and unhumane, but when it came to the final stage, the man realized his error, as instead of him becoming what he wanted, the infant became what he wanted to have done to himself. He transformed into a demon. Though he came out as a cute offspring at first, not much time for him to grow into his original multiverse, as it was destroyed as his planet got sucked into a chain rift alongside many others into the cosmos of the Origin planet by the Origins. Specifically, Lunatira, Supian, and Skullmare did this. This was a mix of building up their planet and saving Skull's planet from any spreads of territory in the long rivalry the Origin has with other factions of similar rank and power. Skull was basically a lost baby in this forest, and would have died if left alone for too long in the extremely dangerous regions of the Origin Forest. However, Skull was found by an older entity who was also called Skull, alongside the benefits that Skullmare was watching them from the distance to keep any of the parasized monsters away from the area. Skull was taken in by his rescuer and almost treated like his son, but it was more like being treated as a friend or younger sibling. He was taken into the center, where channels upon channels of two-way wormholes would be to take him into towns/cities, where large populations of spirits, demons, angels, and entities hang out and live in, more specifically, in a tall tavern house that was isolated from everywhere else by a dimension which Skull and only some other entities lived in. The powers Skull has would have probably been the most powerful things over from his multiverse, as he possesses the ability of flight, natural regeneration of injuries, the ability to fire straight beams of pure energy, shadow cloaking, some dimension and realm traveling, transformation, and the ability to adapt over time to a more ideal form. The Foundation noted that he can be quite destructive when attacked, as he is easily able to break armored vehicles, armor, large rocks, and in some transformations medium to large-sized mountains, and any walls up to the strength below ruin rock, which is one of the moderately tough rocks of the Origin Forest, though nowhere near the strongest. But the main reason behind this mountain-destroying feats is because Skull has the tendency to transform into large, powerful monsters, and he keeps evolving and adapting mid-fight to whatever he needs to be in order to fight. He can. However, while this would be considered very powerful in his multiverse, in the Origin Forest, while still pretty strong. It only fetches him mid-ranking in the demon faction, and many other characters, even of lower ranking, can defeat him. Though this is usually said for many of the factions aside from the Titans, Origin Hunters, and anything Origin or factions alongside, as the hierarchy is not 100% based on power but more social status, and since there are hundreds of thousands of individuals, the power aspect is purely based on the mode of individual strength, leaving room for some individuals to be classified as certain factions yet surpass it. Personally, from the OFF Foundation, we find it disrespectful that human got ranked, as we had easily been able to conquer and defeat many of these factions to the extent we can even take on some of the lower ranking Origins. But this is why we say social/political hierarchy here. And we are getting off topic. Though one last interesting fact before we wrap this up is the snake. Skull is seen numerous times holding onto a white to black faded snake that is unclassified as it changes from being a cobra, a rattlesnake, a mamba, or even a python. The snake is named Fright, and he has also had very high ties with Origin 28, which we all know is Skullmare, as Fright is actually a whole different character itself. But that is it for now, as the Foundation documents a world where when everybody is strong, nobody is.